Hey everybody, welcome back to a banger video. Today we will be dropping 35 tips for high ping players in Fortnite. Now, chapter 5 is just releasing, so if you want to get that competitive advantage, I suggest watching through this whole video, learning every tip to master playing on high ping. Now, this video is not only for the high ping players, but there's also some tips in here that will help the low ping players. And note, I've been playing on 130 ping plus my entire Fortnite career, so trust me when I say these tips do help. Anyway, strap in, get ready, and let's get on to tip number 1. Just a quick note, for your convenience, all the tips are in the description down below, and timestamps will be allocated for each tip. So anyway, let's get straight onto it. So, tip number 1 is use distance to your advantage. Use your ARs or any far range weapon to get initial tags off in a fight. This is important as you won't be able to get piece controlled or your walls taken as easily, seeing as the enemy and you have distance, and it equals the playing field. So once you have put that distance and you've gotten tags, you already have an advantage over the enemy, making them stress in the fight and giving you more opportunities to win the fight. Tip number 2. Look for good positioning. Finding high ground or an uncongested spot in zone is crucial if you want to get endgame kills or stay safe from other players. This puts us at an advantage as people can't rush us as easily, and we can get tags on them while they can't get tags on us as they are in a congested spot where other players are looking at them. Tip number 3. Don't play passive in ranked. Yes, maybe you want to try and get Unreal, but once you have reached Unreal, like I did this season, drop tilted almost every game. Trust me, this is the best tip ever. This is definitely one of the best ways to improve your fighting. You learn how to get good drops, improve your off spawns, and know how to piece control in tight situations. Even if you die off spawn, evaluate how you died and improve on this in your next match. Maybe one day you'll be dropping 20 bombs while landing the most congested spot on the map. Tip number 4. Identify the right fights to take. There's no use fighting someone who's way higher shield than you while you're sitting with no shield at all. This is going to lead to you having disadvantages in the fight and not being able to win it, especially with the ping disadvantage. Also, in endgames, if you see you're stacked and got good mats, don't jump in random people's boxes. Rather use your mat and utilize what you have to get into further zones and get better placement. And then when you're running low on mats, look for people who just got beamed or tagged. They will then be low, making the fight easier for you and making you able to get a refresh easier for the endgame. Tip number 5. Perfect your drop. This tip is crucial. If you are able to land before the opposing player, you can get a gun before them. This puts you at a high disadvantage regardless of your ping. Being able to shoot the enemy first while they don't have a gun surely means they will get eliminated. Ways of doing this is getting a drop map that specifically tells you when you should jump, the distance from where you should jump, and when you should deploy your glider. Number 6. Always stay aware. You don't want to be running in the open and then take damage first when an enemy comes across you. You want to come across the enemy. You want to be dealing the initial damage to the fight so you aren't pressured when the fight starts. Being on high ping, the enemy can easily rush you and take your wall. While if you damage the enemy first, this puts pressure on them, meaning they could stress in the situation and give you a higher advantage while fighting. Tip number 7. Patience is key. Sometimes all you need to do is wait for the enemy to make a mistake. This puts you at an advantage as you can act on their mistake and get them pieced up, box them, or get some damage on them. This is important as when they are making a mistake, it puts you above in the advantage. Instead of them having the advantage of ping on you, you have the advantage on them. Tip number 8. Use effective peaks. An effective peak is basically where you use a right-hand edit or any sort of peak where the opponent can't really see you that well, but you got good vision on the opponent. This makes it easy to get shots off and you to give damage but not take damage. 2 effective ways of doing this is a Martha's edit or a peanut butter edit or any right-hand peak where the opponent can't see you. You can do more research on different peaks to help you improve in this section. Tip number 9. A lot of people don't know this, but you can actually break floors under cones. This is really good for high ping players, because when we pressure someone's box, we can catch them off guard by pickaxing that floor and replacing it. We catch the player off guard as they are trying to hold the cone above the floor, when in fact we are actually taking their floor, meaning that they won't be able to hold the wall as efficiently. Tip number 10. Predict what the enemy is going to do to you. Say now there is a floor and a cone above you that the enemy has just placed. You know they are most likely to make a double edit to get a shot off on you. What you should do in this situation, if you can't get out of it, is look to aim your crosshair at them. So when they edit these builds, you already have your crosshair aimed at them to take a shot at them. And hopefully you can get a higher damage than they do. Or they completely miss their shot and you get damage on them. This is crucial at putting the fight back into your favor. Tip number 11. Use stair piece control. Say now someone edits a window on you when you have been pieced up. You can place a ramp through this edit to delay the time it takes for them to get a shot on you, meaning you can either escape or get piece control on them. Another good tip is when someone does a peanut butter edit on you, you can place the ramp sideways, blocking their entire shot, and then editing the ramp so you can get a shot on them. Tip number 12. If you know you have the advantage in the fight and have gotten the opponent low, and you're struggling to get in their box, try fake swinging at their box. This will tempt them to make an open peek on you to try and get a shot on you, when in fact you are ready to get a shot on them. Tip number 13. So, while pressuring the enemy, you always want to keep in mind where they plan on exiting their box. This is crucial to set up piece control so you can get edits on them and get a good peek shot. So always keep in mind when pressuring where the enemy's leaving and where you should be placing cones, walls and floors to get the necessary piece control to make a good peek. Tip number 14, this one is a basic one and shouldn't be hard to learn, but basically what you want to do is place cones through floors into enemies' boxes. This gives you some initial piece control to help you win the fight. Tip number 15, place ramps through boxes. Even though we're on high ping, everyone can still do this. If you're pickaxing a wall and time it right, you can place a ramp through the opponent's wall when the box breaks. This is good setup for a lot of things, as you can break the wall facing you without the opponent shooting you, and you can set up piece control to where the opponent might leave the box. Tip number 16. In an intense fight or when you need to heal, expand your box. This gives you more space to work in your own piece control, meaning it's harder for the enemy to jump into your box or claim one of your walls. Tip number 17. Pressure the enemy with inside a box. When you're in a box, you are more protected while pressuring the enemy. This instantly gives you an advantage, seeing as it's harder for them to get a peek on you, and they will have to break your wall before they are even able to piece you up, meaning that ping won't give you a disadvantage in the fight. So box up, get yourself a good positioning and start pressuring from a box away. Once you get this down, it will help you in your box fights tremendously. Tip 18. This tip goes very well with the previous tip, as you want to position your box in a place where you are about one box away from the enemy. This gives you space to spray at the enemy or even get high pump damages from this range. Pumps can still do a critical amount of damage from a box away, so keep this in mind while you're fighting, and keep distance open wide so you can't get pieced as easily, and when your walls are taken, you can escape the box easier without getting pressured. Now, tip number 19. Obviously, the best way to get better at the game is constantly practicing. A way I like to do this is by playing 1v1 speed realistics. This puts you in intense fights head on with the enemy. It makes fast-paced fighting, and it is insane practice, as you can do this repetitively over and over and over. A good way to practice in speed realistics is implementing these tips and seeing how you died and identify how you can fix this. This is going to be an amazing factor in improving your fighting ability.
And now piece control the bottom where he is. I'm going to hold my shotgun out because I knew he was going to make an edit. There you go. Patience is key. Now,
tip number 20. Work on your building maneuvers. Perfecting things like 90s and double edits is crucial, as if you can be smooth with these things, you'll be able to fight way easier. Now, I'm not saying you need to be this amazing mechanical player, but know the basics and make as little mistakes while fighting as possible. Another thing to think about in chapter 5 is sprint building. Now, I'll leave a link to Jivan's video where he explains exactly how you should be sprint building in chapter 5. This is really crucial to understand the meta, so please make sure to go watch that video and learn exactly how to do it. If you don't know what maneuvers to practice, I'd suggest go watching Ken Beans or Jivan, as they have both made a ton of building videos showing you guys multiple retakes and ways to improve your building. So go check those guys out. Links will be down in the description below. Tip number 21. Another fundamental that you should learn to master is piece control. Fun ways to do this is in Jivan's practice map. There is a speed piece control section, and Ken Beans just released a realistic piece control game mode. So the codes will be on the screen for you, and I'll leave a link to Jivan's how to piece control down in the description below by tip number 21. So go check it out. Tip number 22. Practice in local tournaments. This is a good way of practicing, as you get to face players on similar ping as you. so you can find your weak points regardless of the ping, so you can work on those, making your high ping fighting even better against the low pingers. In sub-Sahara South Africa, we have platforms like METTLESTATE, ACGL, and ELITEPROSERIES, which are constantly pumping out comps for local players. So go check those out if you are in this region. Tip number 23. When a new season comes out, or even during a season, stay in tune with all the metas that are currently happening. For example, in Chapter 5, we have extreme heal-offs with make kits, as the new healing system allows you to outlive storm way longer in final closing, making solo Cash Cup finals way more predictable at the endgame when it's heal-off. So, remember these metas and learn them when you're playing ranked matches or any competitions. Tip number 24. Learn how to top or tunnel. This basically means you are building boxes as you are walking in an endgame or rotating. This means you'll be more protected and be able to come across less enemies jumping inside your box, as you have more space to work with and you've got all your angles protected. So hop into a practice map and start grinding these tunnels so you can get them done perfectly. Tip number 25. Learn how to pre-fire. This is basically predicting when the enemy is going to break a wall and then you getting a shot on them just before the wall, during the wall breaks. There are many maps to practice this, so hop in one and start grinding those pre-fires. Tip number 26. Use an Ethernet cable. This is a cable that connects directly from your Wi-Fi to your PC or console to reduce the amount of ping you get during the match. Tip number 27. If you cap your FPS to what your PC can handle, this will help you reduce input delay, in overall making you a better fighter as you are lagging less in the fight. Tip number 29. This one applies especially for stacked lobbies. Try to always carry a mobility item. This will help you get from zone to zone way faster and while using less mass, crucially giving you a better chance in the end games. So find yourself a mobility item and utilize it efficiently to get from zone to zone to zone. Okay, so these next 4 tips will be for duos, starting with tip number 30. What you want to do is pressure the enemy from opposite sides of the box. So, if you're on the east side of the box, you want your teammate to be on the west side of the box, so you guys can pressure opposite walls, making it easier to get in on the enemy or replace a wall. Tip number 31. If you see that an enemy player has split from his teammate and you and your teammate are together, focus that one guy together so you guys can hopefully get him down quickly, making the team smaller and the fight easier to win. Tip number 32. Stick with your teammate like glue. You'll see that every pro duo in Fortnite stick to each other and stay in each other's boxes basically throughout the whole endgame. This is to ensure that they can fight together and rely on each other. So remind your duo of this next time you guys are in an intense endgame. Tip number 33. Keep constant communication with your teammate. When you are efficiently communicating with your teammate, it means that you guys will play better together and understand your situation better. Tip number 34. Pressure the enemies together. When you are rushing an enemy, if you are playing together with your teammate and you are both shooting the box at the same time, both shooting your pumps at the same time, getting similar or great angles with each other, it will make the enemies feel intimidated and make them choke the fight. And for our final tip of the video, tip number 35. Guys, this one's the most important. it is never give up. I know that being on high ping is definitely a disadvantage, but it gives us something to prove to the community. So keep up the grind, keep up the fighting, and use these tips in your fights. It is also important to keep in mind that you don't want to force these tips. You want to make these tips muscle memory. Once you have practiced enough, it'll be so much easier to fight on high ping. Anyways, I want to thank you guys so much for watching this video, as it took so much time, and thank you to making it to the end. Make sure to leave a comment, as you might get a shout out in the next video. I know it's been a minute since the last upload, but I have been super busy and this video took a ton of time. So it would mean a lot if you guys liked and subscribed, and maybe possibly even share this video. I just want to give a special shout out to Podcast Goat Spiral9773 for putting nice words in the comments in the last video. And anyways, guys, I'll check you in the next one. Cheers.